Welcome back to the High Limit Room. We are 4 races into the 2025 season, 4 different winners in those races. Let's jump into the last couple of shows, Tulare, Kern, and Perris, and let's look ahead to Central Arizona Raceway and Vado Speedway Park. Let's do it. Episode number 3 of 2025 is here. I am Chase Rodman, the announcer for Kubota High Limit Racing. Later on in the show, we will be joined by pit reporter Tony Laporta and social media expert Brian Walker. So let's get into Tulare. That was a race back on Wednesday night down there for our first race of the first California swing, and it was definitely an interesting night of racing, to say the least. It was the same top 3 in the feature, just a little bit of a different order from last year when we went to Tulare. Kyle Larson, though, same song, different dance there, as he was able to get the win once again. Brad Sweet would end up in the second spot, and Rico Abreu was in third. The track was heavy, and it was cowboy up, which is exactly the type of racetrack that Kyle Larson, I feel like, dreams about. He loves stuff like that, where he can kind of get up on the wheel and use a little bit more throttle maybe than the rest of these guys, and he absolutely dominated that race after he would get by Brad Sweet in the middle portion of the race. Kyle Larson's night did get off to an interesting start, though. He would go the fastest in Flight B of qualifying, but it did not come up with a little bit of some controversy there, I guess you could say, as he got up on the bike on the qualifying run and didn't even lift, it looked like, throttled out of the bike in turn 2 and kept on rolling. He was the fastest in Flight B, but Aaron Reitzel the fastest overall in qualifying that night. Another interesting storyline entering the night and after the heat races were over, Kasey Kahne in his heat race getting the win on the outside. It was a very impressive drive from Kasey Kahne, and he had a very strong start to this season so far. Pretty high up in the point standings as of right now, but Kasey Kahne driving around the outside of Austin McCarl, and he was definitely on the highlight reels on FloRacing over that night of racing at Tulare. Also did want to give a shout out to Cy Lynch, his first ever race at the Tulare Thunderbowl. He was also able to get a heat race win and go to the dash. In the B main, Corey Day did make things very interesting. He had a tough qualifying effort, and he did have a heat race that did not go the way he was hoping for. But in that B main, he did make a pass on Danny Sams III on the very last lap of that B main, and it was a pretty wild sequence of events as Danny Sams wheelied down the backstretch, and Corey Day was able to rip around him on the outside and take down the B main win. Now, getting into the feature, there was a big wreck right at the beginning involving Justin Sanders and Dason Persley. Sanders got upside down in a big way. Persley was not able to restart the race either. All started a little bit there when Cy Lynch kind of got up into a rut there, and the car shut off at the beginning, at the front end of the field. Everybody else behind them trying to avoid, and Justin Sanders and Dason Persley did get a big piece of that incident there. In the feature, Brad Sweet would lead the first 11 laps, and it was eerily similar to what we saw last year, with Brad Sweet leading very early in the race at Tulare, and then Kyle Larson would track him down. He'd make the pass, and then he would never look back. The top 5 in that race, behind Kyle Larson, Brad Sweet, Rico Abreu, Corey Day came from 21st up to 4th, and then Tanner Holmes in the Tarleton Racing number 21 would end up limping across the line after contact with a lap car on the final lap, destroyed the rear end on that 21 machine, and he was able to limp across the line to finish up in the 5th position. But certainly the must-see moment of the night had to be Kyle Larson on the bike in qualifying. I mean, the guy it didn't look like he didn't even lift. We've seen so many people in the past wreck right there in turn 2 at Tulare, whether that's with the wing on the car, without the wing on the car. Turn 2 has always been a problem area at that racetrack, and Kyle Larson was able to wow the fans very early on in the night and hang on to his race car and still be able to put up a very, very fast time in qualifying. And it was just a wild week for Kyle Larson. He got the win at Tulare, then he goes on down the road to Homestead Miami Speedway. He gets the win in the NASCAR Truck Series. He had a 16-second lead in the Xfinity race, and then a late race restart comes. He gets hit from behind and jacks up his car, not able to get the win there. But then yesterday in the Cup Series race, he comes out of the gate swinging. He's very fast all day long, and then at the very end of the race, with about 14 or so laps to go, he starts to make his way forward and passes Alex Bowman for the win over there at Homestead Miami Speedway. Almost almost a full week sweep for Kyle Larson. The sprint car race, the truck race, and the cup race, and more than likely should have had that Xfinity win as well. But still, I mean, incredible stuff from Kyle Larson. He just goes to show that he is one of the most diverse drivers that we've ever seen in the history of automobile racing, and the legend continues for Kyle Larson, that is for sure. Now, the very next night, actually 2 nights later, we would go down the road to the Kern Raceway, Bakersfield Speedway at Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway. It was a new racetrack for High Limit Racing, and over half of the field that was in attendance had never even competed at that 1/3 mile racetrack just off of I-5 in Bakersfield, California. But it did not matter, as Brad Sweet would dominate. He led all 30 laps for his first win of 2025. And so the defending series champion going after Kern, he had runs of first, second, and third. And we'll get into Perris here in a moment, but the speed did not quit after that for Brad Sweet. The track itself was sporting a little bit of a new layout. Talking with Scott Schweitzer and everybody over there at Bakersfield Speedway, Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway, they made the racetrack in turns 1 and 2 about 20 feet wider than what they had before. And so even for the California guys that had been there before, it was a different layout than they were normally used to seeing there. But it did seem like that was not, that extra 20 feet was not really used all that much there. Brad Sweet did not really leave the bottom of the racetrack for a majority of the night. And so he was just the guy that, he was just a dominant car. You put a guy like Brad Sweet out front on a racetrack like that, it is going to be very, very tough to beat him. Now, early in the night, it was Austin McCarl, all the way from Altoona, Iowa. He's out there running right now with High Limit Racing on the West Coast, and he was fastest overall in qualifying, and he was solid at Tulare. He was solid in Las Vegas as well, and McCarl's speed continued on at Kern Raceway. Did want to give a shout-out to a couple of our Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year contenders, as Chase Randall and Cy Lynch both able to get heat race wins and put their way into the dash over there at Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway. Their first time, obviously, ever being at that facility, and they showed speed early on in the night. Now, in the feature, it was yet another big first lap incident, and this one involved Dason Persley. He got up on the bike and then set the car back down. Cy Lynch, just a victim of circumstance there. As Persley slid up the racetrack, he clipped the left rear of Cy Lynch. He went around, he flipped over, collected Rico Abreu. Abreu's car was absolutely destroyed, along with several other cars. Danny Sams got involved as well, and just about every single one of the Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year contenders were involved in that very first lap incident at the Kern Raceway. And did want to mention as well, Spencer Baston got into a huge crash in turn number 2 when something on the car broke, and it just hooked a hard right straight into the outside wall. And Baston's night would be over, and it has been a rough couple of races for Spencer Baston, and most of it, none of his doing. Las Vegas, he blew a tire. Tulare had a steering box go out, and then there at Kern, another part failure for him there, and his night would end as he would go back to the trailer. They'd have to put a whole new car together for the next race at the Perris Auto Speedway. The story of the night, though, at Kern had to be Kasey Kahne. On Kasey Kahne Friday, getting his best ever National Touring Sprint Car Series finish with a second place run behind Brad Sweet. And you have to think, with how the racetrack kind of played out, if Kasey Kahne maybe jumped out to the lead, he maybe could have gotten that first ever win. But still, he was extremely excited. He was elated with how things went over at the Kern Raceway with that second place run. Him and Brent Marks had a really good battle there for that second position. The top 5 ended up being Brad Sweet, Kasey Kahne, Brent Marks, Tanner Holmes, another top 5 finish, and then DJ Netto would end up inside the top 5 as well in car number 88N. So a couple of good runs for either California drivers or California cars running up inside the top 5 and top 10 at the Kern Raceway. But Kasey Kahne was certainly the story this night with his best ever run with High Limit Racing.
That was a lot of fun just to be up front, stay up front throughout the whole race. It was a tough track for sure. I fell to third at one point, got back to second, but we put together the whole night, and that's the hardest part in this deal is the fuel load changes. You put fuel in for the feature, and the track's changing to make the right adjustments and then drive the right way. So, we've been learning a lot. Been out here a little while now, a couple years, a few years, and all last year with the high limit. So, we just try to learn enough to do this more often.
It's no doubt been a strong start to the season for Kasey Kahne with that second place run, and that would not be his only top 10 on the weekend as we would roll on down the road to the Perris Auto Speedway. It's about a 2.5 overnight drive to get down there to the Southern California home of Major League Sprint Car Racing. 29 Wing 410 drivers showing up to the racetrack, which was the most that they have had there at Perris for a National Touring Wing Sprint Car Series since 2007. So a very, very good field showing up down there at Perris. The early portion of the night was incredible. I mean, the racing, the qualifying session, everything was awesome. Qualifying right up against the fence, and that is right up the alley of Aaron Reitzel, and he was able to go quickest overall. The last time Aaron Reitzel was at Perris, he did go to victory lane with the World of Outlaws. That was 6 years ago, but clearly he did not forget how to drive around the pass there as he would circle it the fastest in Capital Custom Trailer qualifying. The heat races did go to Brad Sweet. Tanner Holmes would win heat race number 2 after a very, very good battle, an entertaining battle with Rico Abreu. That would put the number 21 into the dash once again, and Austin McCarl would win heat race number 3. That would send all 3 of those drivers to the dash. Now, speaking of the dash, it may have been the best race of the night between Tanner Holmes and Caleb Montgomery. They were going back and forth with a couple of our high rollers. Caleb Montgomery, I think, slid in front of Aaron Reitzel, and Tanner Holmes was sliding back and forth with Brad Sweet and a couple of other guys. And so it was very cool to see a couple of young drivers that have their own YouTube channels and are trying to make it happen out there. They had really strong nights at Perris, and they were putting on a show in that dash on Saturday night at the Perris Auto Speedway. It was very, very entertaining to watch in that 7-lap FK Roddins dash. Now, in the feature, it was all Aaron Reitzel. I mean, he dominated this race. He would get out to the lead, and he would lead all 30 laps, and it would be his second straight Perris Auto Speedway win, dating back to 2019, and with the victory, it would be 4 different winners in the first 4 races to open up the 2025 season with Kubota High Limit Racing. And maybe, we talked about Kasey Kahne being an incredible story at Kern, but you have to think that this could be the best story we have seen so far this season when it comes to the full-time drivers. A week ago from that win at Perris Auto Speedway, Aaron Reitzel was leaving the Las Vegas Motor Speedway dirt track in the back of an ambulance after getting a rock to the face over there in Las Vegas and broke his nose, stitches, all kinds of stuff. The guy was beat up. A whole week later, that's it, 7 days, he comes back, he gets the win at the Perris Auto Speedway, and in dominating fashion. So an incredible story of perseverance there for Aaron Reitzel, the never-give-up attitude, and it was very cool to see him, how excited he was, and all the hard work paying off for him and his team there at the pass. So nice job to Aaron Reitzel. He also was able to stop in with Brian Walker on After the Checkers on Saturday night.
To unload like we did in Volusia and be that fast, and then go to Vegas and be that fast and think I might be out now, it's pretty upsetting, but luckily, you know, everything came back, checked out good, and now it's the next day, and I kind of try to keep all that under wraps, but my eyes swollen shut completely. Can't get it open at all. So now I'm like, you know, me and my wife's over there Googling everything to get swelling to go down as quick as possible. So we're over there doing everything, and it was, if it was the next day, I wouldn't have got to race for sure, because my eye would not open. So luckily it all played out the way it did, and I'm just couldn't be more proud to have this race team in victory lane this early, to just get that out of the way. And yeah, you know, I mean, it does stink that that's how our year started out, but we've got a lot of speed, so we've got a lot to look forward to.
So 4 races into the season now. This coming weekend, we have a doubleheader at the Central Arizona Speedway in Casa Grande, Arizona on Friday and Saturday, March 28th and 29th. It'll be races 5 and 6 of 59 in 2025. This will be the first 410 Touring Sprint Car Series race in the state of Arizona in over 6 years. And it also will be the first ever 410 Wing Sprint Car race at the Central Arizona Raceway as well. So a lot of firsts and a lot of things coming back to life here. It sounds like there's going to be a very, very excited crowd of fans going to be there at the racetrack on Friday and Saturday night. Arizona Sprint Car fans have been dying to see some 410s here over the last couple of years, and High Limit Racing will will be delivering that this coming weekend. We are expecting 30-plus cars, and we could potentially see up to 35 cars, it does sound like, going into this one, with quite a few of the California guys making their way over and also participating in this event. The Central Arizona Speedway, a 3/8-mile racetrack, and it's going to be unfamiliar to nearly every single high roller in the field. From my research, the only driver with experience at this racetrack is Aaron Reitzel. He did that in a non-wing car with the USAC Southwest Sprint cars all the way back in 2013. So besides that, all of the high rollers have never actually raced there. Tyler Courtney did do a little bit of a test session at this racetrack before the Las Vegas Motor Speedway opener earlier on in March. So Sunshine does have some experience getting around this racetrack, albeit not with other cars, but he does have a couple of laps. And with that being in mind, a new racetrack to almost everybody, this could certainly be a wild card, and maybe we could see a 5th different winner to open up the season in the first 5 races, and maybe the very next night make it 6 for 6. That would be a very cool storyline to see this year with High Limit Racing. Now, moving on, the next race that we would have on the calendar would be on Tuesday night. That would be April 1st in Vado, New Mexico at the Vado Speedway Park, race number 7 of 59. And do want to clarify this just in case anybody is confused. This is not a midweek, a Roto-Rooter midweek series event. This is just a race in the middle of the week. Those races are clarified on the High Limit Racing website. This is not one of them, but do want to talk about how incredible this facility is. Opened back in 2019, the owner of the track is Royal Jones. If you don't know who that is, well, you might know him better as Massey Valley Transportation. He sponsors so many different race cars, whether that's in wing sprint cars, late models, street stocks, non-wing cars. He is a huge sponsor of so many different race car drivers and racing teams, and he is the owner of the Vado Speedway Park. Absolutely world-class facility, and it is mostly known for the Wild West Shootout with super late models that takes place in January every single year during the Chili Bowl Nationals. And so we've seen really, really good racing action from there, especially with those late models. Have not seen very many 410 wing sprint car races at this racetrack in the past. In fact, they've only had one in the history of the facility, and it happened with the World of Outlaws in 2022. Brad Sweet was the winner that night with the Outlaws. Spencer Baston, a high roller, was also in the field. He ran 6th that night, and Tanner Thorson was also in the field. He was 13th in that main event. Vado, another 3/8-mile racetrack, and we look to have a full field of cars as well for that one. The track record was established by James McFadden back on March 29th of 2022 at 12.215 seconds, and so with only one race in the past, we could certainly see maybe a new track record take place over at the Vado Speedway Park on Tuesday, April 1st. For race number 7 of 2025. So looking forward to getting to a couple of racetracks that many guys do not have that much experience at. In my opinion, that always makes it a little bit more interesting watching these guys having to adjust their cars and adjust their driving style to that particular facility. And so we're looking forward to seeing how things will go with those 2 racetracks coming up in the next week or so with Kubota High Limit Racing. Now, earlier on today, Tony Laporta was able to stop in with Chase Randall, one of our Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year contenders. He's actually leading the Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year standings right now, and that is, of course, Chase Randall. And so we are very happy to hear from him and have him here on the High Limit Room.
So a little bit of off-day action here with High Limit Racing out in Arizona. We've got some time till we get back on track. So Chase Randall and I thought, hey, why don't we take in a baseball game? And we're here in where are we at?
We're here in Phoenix, Arizona. You see a Brewers victory today, so it's a pretty good day.
Don't you sound a little too happy about that. The guy's from Texas, and all of a sudden he's a resident of Milwaukee. Your Colorado Rockies did fall to the Milwaukee Brewers. Really cool trip out here to watch some spring training baseball before the regular season starts. Are you a baseball fan? You're from Texas. Who's your team?
So, I really haven't been a baseball fan. I always watch, towards the end of October into playoff season, but, putting some race cars together this off season, me and Baylor were kind of looking at each other like, baseball's a summer sport. We need kind of a team to follow just for fun. And, just decided to pick the Milwaukee Brewers, and here we are.
So this actually is this is the team you're going to want to watch and cheer for this year. So that's why you guys came and hit the Brewers game.
Yeah, we're looking at kind of our schedule. We knew we were here in Phoenix and playing some spring training games, and it kind of all just fell together. We're be able to catch a game, support them.
That's cool. So we were joking. We bumped into the Randalls. Brian Walker, Mitch Erickson, and I from High Limit were here taking in the game, and then we bumped into you guys. So thought, hey, why don't we catch up and talk about what's going on? So what were you involved in growing up in Texas? Because we can talk racing at the track. I want to know a little bit more about you as a kid. Did you play sports like this as a kid, or has it been racing from day one for you?
It's been racing from day one, but I played some sports as a kid growing up. Kind of on this when I was kind of on the local-ish level, racing quarter midgets around Texas, and whenever I had some time. But racing kind of slowly took over everything, and then I kind of got to the point where it was either try to race a little bit more, or don't want to hurt myself in any of the physical sports, and so I kind of put that to the side. I was never really good at it anyway. It's just do as fun as a kid, but just the racing for me as a whole is what I love to do.
You're definitely you've got the race car driver build. Small, lightweight, the racing thing works for you, I guess, is you picked the right sport is what I'm trying to say. But I don't know, did you pick your nickname? Because the quickest chicken, I feel like that is like borderline triggerable. Like that's almost offensive. Quickest chicken. Do you like the nickname? Do you not like the nickname? Break it down.
I love it. It was a nickname that I was given when I was racing quarter midgets on the USAC National Tour many, many years ago. And it's always just stuck to me. I've had Bush's Chicken on the side of my cars for my whole life with my dad's business, and that's kind of how that nickname was born. And it just came to me one day from the announcers, and it's stuck with me ever since then. And something I really kind of grown to enjoy because that's something I can be very recognizable with.
Yes, definitely. The quickest chicken, I think, is one of the more unique nicknames in the sport of dirt track, sprint car racing. You don't always hear, kind of borderline mean nicknames, I feel like, but people don't understand the Bush's Chicken, your family's business with the chicken restaurant. So it does all add up. I said we would talk racing at the track. I do want to talk a little bit here. One of the 4 Racer Dean Foundation Rookie of the Year entrants this season. And I've said it since day one, and I'll continue to say it. I think that Rookie of the Year fight's going to be the tougher of the two when it's down to the championship and the Rookie of the Year fight. You, Danny Sams, Cy Lynch, Jason Persley, all really fast, all young, all talented. It's not like you're a stranger to traveling. You've gone all around the country racing sprint cars, but this is your first time committed to a 410 wing national tour. I know we're only, 4 races in, but are there any challenges? Are there any things that have popped up that you didn't expect, having to points race and follow a tour?
I don't think there's been too many just yet, but I feel like there's going to be several coming. Like I said, we've only had a couple of races in so far, and I feel like we've done a really good job these past couple of nights, putting together solid nights, getting some good finishes. I had some bad luck along the way in certain spots, but I feel like we've done a good job at maintaining and putting our best foot forward to be there. It's a long year, and we're trying to do the best we can. But there's been a few with the the points racing I'd never really done before, so it's kind of in the back of my mind of having to finish these races and making smart moves, not putting myself in a bad position where it can cost me at the end.
Yeah, a lot of the older guys talk about two different words. They both start with letter C: consistency and composure. And it's tough, as all the rookies have already experienced, I feel like, here through the first week of races. But with a national tour and going all around the country, you get to do some fun stuff like this, go catch some baseball games, other sporting events. Do you guys have anything else on the schedule, on the calendar you're really looking forward to doing as we crisscross the country this year with High Limit?
At the moment, but we'll definitely get that filled out along the way. That's one of the things I've really, really got to enjoy with, being on the High Limit Tour this year and for a national schedule for my first time is, getting to have these off days and getting to enjoy being out on the road and, not be such, grinding on the race cars and getting to just enjoy our time we spend out here, like you said.
Yeah, so favorite baseball team apparently now is the Brewers, probably just because they won today. They got lucky. Other quick hits, favorite football team, who you cheering for in the fall?
Oh, Lord. Minnesota Vikings.
Wow, really going against that Texas heritage. Got a favorite basketball team?
I actually don't have a favorite basketball team, but I would probably say the Mavericks just because it's from Texas and that's one I can reach.
Okay, and then last one for Chase Rodman. Do you have a hockey team that you like to cheer for?
I do not. I have no idea anything about hockey.
Okay, well, don't worry. Chase will make that a point when he's talking about you during qualifying to catch you up on some hockey. They look like they're getting ready to kick us out here at Salt River Fields, a talking stick. Before we go, can we get a Go Rockies from you?
No, maybe in the future, but not right now.
Okay, the Brew Crew wins today. Chase Randall's pseudo new favorite team, the Rockies, take it on the chin. But the good news is we're going to get to do other fun stuff like this all season as Kubota High Limit Racing crisscrosses the country with a more than 55 race schedule. Chase Randall and the other Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year contenders get to see the land and get to have a lot of fun. Chase, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
All right, good to hear from Chase Randall, one of our Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year contenders in 2025. Now getting into the final section of the show here. We'll be talking about all the things that have happened over the last couple of races. We'll be talking about some betting. We'll be talking about other stuff here as well. We've got social media expert Brian Walker. We've got Tony Laporta, the pit reporter for High Limit Racing here as well to close out the show. If you would like to be involved in getting in on the action with High Limit Racing, make sure to nxtbets.com/playHLR. You can claim a sign-up bonus on there, and it'll also show you which sports books are available in your region, and you could get a little bit more involved with High Limit Racing this season. Now, speaking of that, Brian, it was Aaron Reitzel getting the win at Perris, and the longest odds to win a race so far this year with High Limit Racing. Is that right?
Yeah, before him it was Corey Day was around. I think he opened at like plus 800 in Las Vegas, and then last week we went to Tulare. Shocker, Kyle Larson was the odds-on favorite. I think he was like plus 200-ish, and he won. Brad was around plus 380 at Kern, and then we rolled into Perris. And like surprisingly, I think we talked about this in the car that Aaron was about plus 1400 when the odds opened, which was a little surprising because it had been like 5 or 6 years since he went there last with the Outlaws, but he dominated the Outlaws. He was definitely one of the favorites going in to us on the road. So yeah, that was the biggest long shot of the year to win. It was really going to be a long shot no matter what that night as far as the odds were concerned, because Tanner Holmes, if he pulls off that pass, he got it momentarily. He was around plus 7,400.
Yeah.
McCarl ends up running second. He was like almost plus 8,000. So someone was going to make some money that night for sure, regardless.
I don't anticipate seeing Reitzel below or over plus 1,000 for the rest of the season. I would be shocked if that was the case. And he's going to be really, really fast. I think that win is going to propel him to a couple more here in the coming weeks. Now, Tony, one guy that has been super impressive here to open up the season with High Limit, he's not one of our full-time drivers, but what can you say about Tanner Holmes? 11th in Vegas, 2 top 5s, was probably going to run second at Perris, but blew a right rear tire. Tell us about Tanner Holmes, because, man, has he been incredible so far in that very short tenure with Tarleton Racing.
Well, yeah, and you hit on it, Chase. It's that Tarleton combination with Tanner Holmes, right? I think people have known for a long time Tanner's a very talented, very smooth, very, very smart race car driver. But, man, when you pair that kind of driver behind the wheel and you put him behind the wheel of a really well-prepared, fast race car, and you team him up with people like Drew Warner, Nate Matherly, and he brings his sister, Carly Holmes, who works with him on any race car he drives, whether it was the Shark car back with the Outlaws 2 years ago, their family 18T, and now she's with them on that Tarleton machine. That car doesn't just look good, Chase. It's really, really fast. It's really well prepared, and it's a good marriage right now between a smart young driver and a really hardworking and aggressive team.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now, I did want to mention this because I like to try and tell everybody where we are. I did make it back home last night about 1:30 in the morning after a very long day in the airport. But you guys are still out there. You guys are just doing the nomad thing. I think that's what they call it. But yeah, look, you guys are still in Arizona. You're going to a bunch of baseball games. Is that right, Tony?
Yes, Chase. Brian and I, and Mitch Erickson, you may have just seen a cameo of him a moment ago coming down the Airbnb steps. We did decide to stay out in Arizona. You're doing the spend all day in the airport, fly home, come back 3 days later thing. It's an aggressive strategy to crisscross the country that much, but I see what you're doing. Brian and I and Mitch are staying out. Spring training for the Cactus League, Major League Baseball. I know you're keeping up to date on all that, is wrapping up this week. And Brad and Kyle really helped us out with the schedule this year. I like how they kept baseball in mind. We race at Casa Grande in Central Arizona on Friday and Saturday. Thursday afternoon, Major League Baseball kicks off its regular season, and the Diamondbacks are at home. So I think even you're joining us. Of course you are. Big baseball guy. we're all going to go catch the Diamondbacks home opener on Thursday night, but knocking out some spring training games. Rockies play later today, so I'm ready to go and be disappointed and made very sad. So, yeah, it's going to be a great week.
Yeah, looking forward to getting back over there. Sounds like the weather has been pretty good. I did see a forecast for the weekend as well in that area, and it does look like we are going to be having some good weather when High Limit Racing shows up to Central Arizona Speedway. Now, Brian, we want to talk about the top 10 in points. Now, obviously, we want to talk about our top 10 guys, the top 10 in the real High Limit Racing points with our full-timers, but when you look at the points right now, you're going to see a couple of names that are in there that are not full-timers and a couple of surprises. I think the one that really sticks out to me has got to be Caleb Montgomery in the number 3, a guy that last year when he showed up with us didn't have a single crew guy on his team. I think this year he's got one guy, but can you just talk about how impressive it has been for him? He's 6th in the de facto, or in the points right now. You got Dominic Scelzi in 5th and Austin McCarl 6th. Tanner Holmes is 8th in points. I mean, what's going on here?
Did you see that Caleb is coming this weekend too?
I did, yes. I
Yeah.
saw that. I think he's trying to get some people to shoot him over a couple bucks on Venmo just to try and make the trip a little bit easier for him.
Yeah, he texted when I woke up this morning. I had a text from him, and he said he's going to Central Arizona and Vado now.
Oh, wow.
So he's going to keep trucking along with us as we go east. I joked on his Facebook post the other day. I slipped a full-time agreement into his seat after the checkered. But yeah, I mean, Caleb's been insanely impressive all swing long, even going to Vegas. I mean, at Vegas, we were just joking with him that we hope he makes a show so he can go put the 1,500 on black back at the casino. But yeah, it's been awesome to see him succeed. And then obviously you have Dominic Scelzi up there. I mean, if Tanner Holmes doesn't get that flat tire at Perris, he's 2nd in points, and he is literally right behind the 49 for the title lead. I guess Nasty Nate has this school thing or something. I don't know. He's trying to become a better adult or something, but apparently that's their reasoning why they can't go full time. But we've been hammering Tanner and Drew on it pretty hard.
Yeah, you got to think that they're thinking about it, but obviously they're not the ones that make the final call on the entire situation there. But no doubt would be very cool to have Tanner Holmes join the tour full time. Again, we aren't expecting that to happen as of right now. But now back to our full timers. I would say when you look at the point standings, maybe the biggest surprise so far, and really to no fault of his own. I mean, this guy's just had some horrendous luck. Tony Spencer Baston has had nothing go right so far this year. He's made all 4 shows, but doesn't have any top 10s and has gotten into a couple of wrecks, had a lot of part failures. But it's just a terrible, terrible start to the season for these guys. And like I said, they've had speed. They just have no results.
Yeah, I mean, you sum it up perfectly, Chase. Spencer in that new partnership with Jason Myers Racing, Shane Bowers, the crew chief on that car. I think that's going to be a very, very good combination, and probably long-term also. But yeah, I mean, I hate the word luck personally, but really, what else can you say? How else do you describe what's going on with Spencer Baston and that JMR number 14 to start the year? They really have had bad luck if you subscribe to that kind of thing. I can't come up with a better word. And more than anything, let's just be thankful and really celebrate the technology, the safety technology in these cars, and the rapid response by track officials, high limit safety officials, and MedStar after that terrifying wreck while he was running 9th in Bakersfield, California back on Friday night. That was a super scary crash. Thank goodness he is okay. It's a testament to how well prepared these race cars really are, and just waiting to see that guy, find a rabbit's foot, or I don't know what other good luck charms are. Chase, you're always eating Lucky Charms. Maybe you can help him out. But yeah, really, really waiting to see Spencer Baston get on a good run here, because they can be lethal, that combination over there at JMR, I think.
Yeah, they certainly can. Now, Brian, heading into this weekend, Brad Sweet's point lead is at 45 over Tyler Courtney. It's at 54 over Brent Marks and 66 over Rico Abreu. These guys got to get it together, or he's going to just waltz away with this championship very early on in the season. We look at the Outlaws, David Gravel, 80-point lead after 10 or so races, and now Brad Sweet with a 45-point advantage. Hopefully Tyler Courtney and Rico Abreu and Brent Marks, those types of guys can get their stuff going here. We mentioned it. Tyler Courtney did do some testing at this track coming up this weekend for 2 nights, so maybe an opportunity for him to close in a little bit on Brad.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look back at the first 4 races, it's just been the very little things that have cost these guys points. But I mean, Rico, if he doesn't get innocently collected in that wreck at Kern, he's probably second in points right now. Brent Marks coming out third in points out of California, I think even he himself would say is a win-win. That's not a guy who he does not consider California his jam. So I think he's pretty happy to be sitting where he's at. The 87, I believe I overheard Justin Sanders said that Brian Ridge gave him full permission to rip the 87 at Vegas. But they had a mechanical failure, I believe, on lap 2 or 3 whenever they pulled in. So that kind of canceled out Aaron's misfortune there. And then Sunshine, I can't pinpoint anything specific that happened to Sunshine. I guess it's just kind of early night mishaps getting them behind the 8 ball. But Arizona, Vado, Amarillo, Dodge City, these are going to be, I think, the best chances for a while for these guys to make up points on Brad, especially because Brad hasn't been to these places as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about Brent Marks. I mean, like you said, he's only 54 points behind. And remember, last year the California swing did not go very well for him, and obviously we have another one coming up later in the year. But 54 points back, third in points. I think if he can make it through Central Arizona Speedway coming up over these next few nights and still be in the top 3, Tony, this could lead to some really, really good things for Brent Marks, because then he's going to be heading back towards the areas that he's familiar with, and maybe start getting pretty hot like he did last year. I think he opened up the season with 14 or 15 top 10s in a row, and so this could be an opportunity for Brent Marks to close in on Brad Sweet. He's already a lot closer than I think even he maybe thought after leaving California.
Yeah, absolutely. And both Brian nailed it. They had an abysmal West Coast swing out here at the end of last summer, and Brent, Heath Moyle, Jared Goodling, Fudd, all of them, I think, were just sort of feeling like they were in the blender, right? And they didn't know what was going on. He is a lot more relaxed, it feels like, this year. And I'm just kind of providing commentary, which, so often I think, hey, let's go straight to the source. Let's talk to those guys when we get to the track and find out. But from my perspective, 1,000 feet up in the air, okay, last year, things were really stressful. They were expecting the birth of their child in race season. That's going to be tough. It was Brent's first time back on a national tour in quite a long time. And, everybody last year with Kubota High Limit Racing was kind of just grasping at straws, finding out what is going on, what is this, all these new tracks we're going to. Brent shows up at the racetrack these days. I know we've only had 4 race days so far, but I think he comes off much more relaxed. He feels much more calm. I think a lot of that's attributed to being back with a national touring series for the second year now in a row. He feels really comfortable. And man, yeah, to have the results they've already had out here in California, where last year they were counting down the days till leaving the state and the western half of the U.S. I think Brent Marks is a different driver, different team, different guy in 2025. And you hit on it too, Chase. Consistency. They rattled off such high, consistent results last year. It felt like every night we were either talking to him on the podium or he was just barely missing the podium. He's talked about that in post-race interviews with me. Consistency is what they need to hit on. I think they're on the verge of cracking whatever that last little bit of the code is, and they're getting ready to rattle off a whole lot of consistent up-front finishes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where he's at leaving Central Arizona, and then maybe he can start stringing some stuff together at tracks he's been to before. Now, the final thing I did want to touch on in here on this final section of the High Limit Room is a couple of guys that have gotten off to some tough starts. We already mentioned Spencer Baston, but at least he's been able to make it through most of the race. A couple of guys that have not been able to say that: Dason Persley and Cy Lynch, 2 of our Rookie of the Year contenders. Both of them have been in the dash a couple of times so far this year, Brian, but they've both been upside down once or twice, and it's just been a tough start to the year for those guys. They have shown the speed. It's just they got to get through the first lap of the race to show what they really have.
Yeah, really all 4 of the Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year contenders have shown speed. I mean, you look back at Danny Sams, what he did at Volusia. He's still rattling off good, consistent results with us. Chase Randall's obviously the leading contender right now, and I mean that's a guy that I think could win a race soon, and I would not be surprised either. And then Cy and Dason, I mean, it's just they've had a bunch of bad luck or little mistakes, and to just haunt them. I mean, you look at Dason. I think he's really going to run well at Kern if that mishap into turn 1 on the opening lap doesn't happen. And then poor Cy, man. I mean, he was in both times he was in the dash, and he gets to the backstretch, and I mean, his race is basically done. So it's just once those little things get cleaned up, I think they'll start rattling off some good runs. And that's also tough for them coming out here to the West Coast, especially a guy like Cy and Danny, especially. They've never even been out here at all. I think Danny said he came to California one time when he was young, maybe, or something. So he'd never even seen the state. But it'll be interesting to see how those guys continue charging along here.
Yeah, certainly. And Tony, you're pretty close with a couple of guys on the Cy Lynch crew, and you know they've tore up a couple of wings, lost an engine in Vegas. Hopefully, the spirits aren't getting down on those guys just 4 races into the year.
You're right, Chase. I am fortunate to have a good relationship with a few of the crew members on Cy's team, just by happenstance, getting to know Cy when he raced with us last year. So they might not love what I'm going to say next. But just like I said earlier, I'm not a huge proponent of luck. I don't really know if I buy into that, philosophy very much. I think one of the major things that's kind of contributing to Cy Lynch right now struggling is I'm not back in their pit area every single night. I don't just sit there. With the exception of Perris, it's very tough for me to even get to the pits most night from the infield during all the racing action as fast as our programs run. But I would imagine that a big thing that's going on with Cy's team right now is they're just kind of in a rush right now back there in the pit area. I don't think they're getting all the time they need to get a good debrief from Cy to make the changes they need to and to just examine that race car. Okay, it's kind of a slap together deal over there right now. They've got Kinzer. They have got Tyler Garber, who came over from Jacob Allen's team. They've got his buddy Zane, and then they've got Cy's uncle on his mom's side of the family, Chad. And not saying a bad thing about any one of those individuals, but they're all still learning how to work together right now, right? It's just like all of us when we come back after an off season away, or last year when we kicked off working all together for the first time. It takes time for a team to gel. And then on the other side of things, Dason Pursley, I mean, it sucks to say, but he keeps getting mired back in the pack at the starts of these big feature races. Coming into this year, he had less than 30 starts in a 410 wing sprint car. And let's look at the places he ran and how he did. A lot of those Huset's weekly shows, yeah, he came out and did a few nights with us, but I think he was up towards the front end of the field in some of those weekly programs he was competing in. Not here. They get mired in the back. He's flying into turn 1 or coming off turn 2 in all that turbulent air that so many cars in front of him create. And Dason, I think, would be honest with you, he just doesn't have the experience right now to know how to negotiate being back there in all that dirty air with all that rough stuff around him. And man, 3 races in a row now, it's not worked out for him. So I think once we, just continue to click off races and get going, you're going to see both those. You're going to see Cy's team gel a lot better, and you're going to see Dason get that seat time, and he's going to know what to do out on the track a lot better.
Yeah, I certainly think it's just going to, by the middle part of the season, Dason's really going to get going and figure everything out, and he's going to be a guy we talk about quite a bit here with High Limit when it comes to top 5s and top 10s, and maybe contending for wins by the end of the season. So, guys, hopefully you enjoy your baseball games this week. Hopefully the Rockies win, and I don't know, Brian, I don't know your team or whatever, but hopefully they have a good week or whatever as well. For all of you watching out there, hopefully we maybe gave you some insight on maybe some guys that'll be good coming up here at the next couple of races at Central Arizona Speedway in Vado. So if you want to get involved, make sure to go to nxtbets.com/playhlr. You go on there, it'll show you which sports books are available in your region, and you can also sign up and get a free bonus as well to partake in the action. We'll see you guys on Thursday, and we hope to see you race fans either at Central Arizona or Vado. We do know that Kyle Larson will be at Vado, so make sure you get your tickets to that one coming up on April 1st. That is a Tuesday night, so a little bit of some midweek action with High Limit Racing. So hopefully you all enjoyed the High Limit Room this week. We'll do it again next week. See you then.